Good afternoon, everybody. So last week I developed a number of little thank you notes. If you're like me, there's a number of stamp sets in your stash that you have barely looked at, let alone opened, since you ordered them. And so what I was thinking was, how do I get myself motivated to use as many of these stamp sets as I can? So what I did, and I'm sure this is not new, but for me it's new. And so what I did was I came up with a very simple idea where what I could do is get the main stamp from the set and do some watercoloring on it, and then make it into nothing grand, but a simple thank you note. It's a different size from my standard cards. So here's a card that's in the form of a thank you note. It's been watercolored. Well, first of all, I've embossed it, and I've embossed it in white powder, and then I've used a watercoloring technique to color it. Now, on all accounts, they've been well received, and I've had a number of clients ring me up saying that they would like to buy them and also learn how to make them. So this video is dedicated to that. Now, with my videos, I like to have as many things prepared in advance. But on this occasion, what I'm going to do is I'll whip you through the process for those people who are new, and where it's going to take a long time, e.g. to color something. What I might do is speed that through as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's look at the stamp sets that I'd recommend. I always suggest that you go with something that is going to have some colouring meat, if you like. So some area that you can actually colour. So the Nature's Harvest Daisy, I think, is a very good example. There's a lot of space there that you can show the results of wet on wet watercolouring, and I'll show you what I mean by that shortly. If you were to look at the floral image beside that, you can see that there's not a lot of real estate there to colour, and so I'd probably recommend not to use that. And likely as well, or similarly, is the Botanical Prints one. This is one of the distinctive sets, and what I mean by that is there's lots of grading in the final result. These ones reproduce a beautiful picture, but sometimes you don't always get a good opportunity to show and highlight watercoloring effects, if you like, because a lot of the real estate is already darkened. So for example, this one here, there's no stippling or a darkening within the area of this, so it's a good amount of real estate to play with. So that's just my tip, and this is the one that we're going to use today. So without further ado, let's get into it now. So what we need for these cards, actually, I'll just quickly go through the real estate, what we're going to be needing. We need some Versamark, we need some white embossing powder, the stamp, and as you can see here, I've got the card base, which I'm still yet to put the insert in here. So I've got the card base and the card front piece, which is this here, and I've also got these four corners, which is excuse me, just adds a little something to it. And I've used this Stampin' Up! Punch to create these corner pieces. But look, the sky's the limit. You can present in any way you feel suitable for your audience and for your cards. So, but I'm going to just reproduce what I've done there in the past. Okay, Versamark. It's what we need when we want the embossing powder to stick to the cardstock. But we also need the embossing buddy. Now this is filled with a powder of sorts, and what that does is eliminates any grease or fingerprints that would also attract the embossing powder to the cardstock, even where the sticky stamp is not there. So let's just grab a block Okay, now let's just get some Versamark onto this. Good coating. There we go. And I always like things to be on a slight angle, whether that's the card, whether that's the stamp. And I like it to take up a fair bit of the real estate. Okay, nice firm push down. And off we go. Now you can see the stamp there, or the imprint of the stamp, but let's keep progressing. And right now, as you can see, I don't have a lot of embossing, white embossing powder. It's on the shopping list, rest assured. It's my new must-have product, but we'll have enough here for our purposes. Now all I'm doing, shaking that through. And there we go. Now I like to give that a solid tap. You may be able to see that there now more clearly. Now what you will see here, there is a great collection of lines and all that up here. Don't be dismayed by that. You will get some good colour in there. That's going to reproduce very well. Okay, moving that aside. Sorry, I realised I had the door open and the washing machine going. Okay, who says card crafters cannot multitask? Just very quickly. Okay. You can see there it has become, the powder has melted. I just quickly touch up just once. It's important to not touch that until it's had a chance to cool. Because it is still molten and it will move. Okay. Now, with a huge array of colours to choose from, thank you Stampin' Up, one needs to make up one's mind as to what they're going to do in terms of the colouring. Now, I'm going to go, I like to go a little bit left of field sometimes when I'm colouring something, and I don't necessarily always need to have just one colour. So for example, for me, the head of the daisies, I would see that there would be some yellow and possibly some grey. I'm going to mix a yellow and a grey in the actual daisies. So basic grey, oh actually, yes. I'm going to do the grey, basic grey, and wild wheat as the two colours I'm going to use to colour the flower head. And the base, what I'm going to use there is probably a garden green, and we might go with something a little bit lighter, probably granny apple green. Okay, we'll come back to those shortly. Let's have a look at these colours here with, now our spritzer, not our spritzer, our water pen. As you can see, the tube is filled with water, and you've got this fine brush here. And I'm going to make a leap of faith that most of you that are watching this today are familiar with the tools of the trade. And because I'm new at making videos, although I've been stamping for up to 12 months, that leap of faith may be inaccurate. So anyway, let me know what your thoughts are. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 2 blocks, or we're going to apply the colour into 2 blocks. And the way we do that, or the way I do it, and I'm assuming this is the way that most of my colleagues do it, I stamp onto one, and on the other block I'll stamp the same as well. Okay, so we've got a black, and we've got a grey and the yellow colour, and these are the colours that I'm choosing today. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the colours that anyone else should choose. Now there's water in this, and what I'm going to do is just very quickly run the water clear by squeezing the nodule, and you can see that there is no other ink residue or any other colours when this was previously used. Okay, so what I do is I put a bit of water on each colour block. Now, you heard me mention the term wet on wet. Now, when you apply colours in a watercolour nature, you will find that the colours will bleed and move much more freely when you are applying these colours to a wet surface. So you'll see here how the colours have diverged into other areas very freely. That's because when I painted the colour on originally, I had wet the surface with water, and it was the water from this pen, in fact. If you were to apply it straight onto a dry surface, you would find that the effect would be very similar to as if you were to use one of our markers and to apply colour in a dry surface using them. So wet on wet just refers to the process of wetting the shape first. Now what I've done, I've squeezed some water through the brush, and I'm now just wetting the shape. Now if you find it's a big shape, you can apply a little pool of water like such and mix that around. Now be careful that the card base that you're using is sufficiently firm enough to soak up some of that water without destroying the integrity of the actual water itself, of the paper itself. The last thing you want is to have a pool of water that's seeping into your cardstock and making it soft. Okay, so we've now got wet, and now we can start to apply some colour. So the way I do this is very simply in this manner. You can see that I'm just touching the surface because there's already water there on the area within the white lines. Now I've chosen white simply because it's a contrast to everything as always being outlined in black or a grey. I've chosen a white. Now obviously I've gone outside the lines just here, but a little cotton bud is a crafter's best friend. Okay, so you can see what I've done there. Now that's still a wet surface. Now what we're going to do, just squeeze that excess colour out of there. So we're back to a clear brush. Now let's get some grey in there, and let's just watch how the grey moves with the daisy. So I'm just touching it, wet on wet. And when there's a lot of water, the water will find its own level and start to move, creating a much more natural look and flow of colour than if you were to try and blend and do that yourself. Okay, So let's just let that one dry and proceed to the next one. So now just draining out that black colour and repeating the process again. So in this time, a little bit of water, there you go, probably a bit too much, soaking up some of that, and there. Now giving it a wet surface like we did before, working quickly, staying within the lines where possible. Okay, now picking up some colour, and you can start to see the water is helping the colour move freely, and it's finding its own level. There we go. Okay, now I'm just adding some colour in there, because that is where I'm going to now pick up the grey like we did here, and then bring in some colour there. Now, if you want more intensity, stay away from the pool and move into the drier real estate of the block, if you like. Now, because it is, you can see that water just trickle and flow in there. That's what gives you that free natural colouring of plants and things like that. And that's one of the beauties of watercolouring. Make sure you wash the tips of the bristles free just by squeezing it and going back in here. And I just wanted to add a little bit of colour just to the edges of those leaves there. Okay, and you'll notice too, when you go back in, much like the blending markers, when you go back in and apply another coat on a surface that has already had colour applied, you will notice that the you will make the colour more intense. Now, am I happy with these? I am happy. I'm just going to push this grey back a bit there, and I might start to remove some of that so it doesn't intrude too much. And look at that. I think that's fantastic. I'm happy with that. Great. Okay, now the next one, the next one here, I'm going to go with, I'm going to just put those aside, and I'm going to bring in our two colours here. Right. Now, what was it? Granny apple green and garden green. Okay, same approach. Let's get 2 blocks, or actually I might just use 1 block and do the colours at the end. There we go. Granny apple green on the left, garden green on the right. Okay. And some water in the centre. There we go. That's clean water. We'll now apply, so just until you get the feel of the paper. Let's take a bigger space, create a wet surface on it. You can see that happening there in the camera there, I think. Excellent. Oops, outside the line. Cotton bud. Right. Wet surface to start, wet on wet. Now I'm going to start with the green here and just apply a little bit of water. There you go. Now I'm going to give that, and see how the water flows nicely to find its own level. Now if you go outside the lines, it's not the end of the world, because as we know as crafters, there are many ways to hide these mortal sins. Okay, what I'm going to do now, just get rid of that green, give it a flush. There you go. And I'm just going to add a slight bit of, just on the vein of the leaf. Because what I wanted to do, I want that green to find its own level. And can you see that? You couldn't have hoped for better if you tried. Okay, so that leaf is just about done, I would say. Very happy with that. Okay, let's repeat the process. Some fresh water. There we go. Create the wet surface. Yes. There you go. wet area. Okay, granny apple green. And here we go. Look at that. The way the water just pulls and runs. Okay, beautiful. You got some dark and light tones there, and all we're doing is just adding a little bit of green to intensify the shade and shadow. Okay, beautiful. Okay, I think that's done. Now let's go to our next leaf. And there it is. Okay, same process. I like to go with the lighter colour first. Now I know when I use blending pens, I always do the darker colour first. Go figure, I don't know why that is, but I just feel I have better control if I get the lighter base colour in the watercolour down first. I'm liking that. Okay, let's go. Now in this case here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet the stem, and I'm going to apply a slightly dark, I'm going to apply this first. Why am I doing that? I just feel I want the stem to be a slight bit darker than the actual leaves, but that might be just too dark. Okay, so what I've done is I've just started off with the dark, but I've complemented it with a little bit of granny apple green, so I don't end up with that very dark stem. Okay, like that. So once again, let's get some water into the stem, creating a wet surface area for the water to and colour to find its own path. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. I think that's good. Nothing's even, that's great. That's the way I like it. Let's do this stem here. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to roll this over here because I don't like all that green there. It's too dark for my liking. Flushing out there and coming in with some lighter colour. There we go. Okay. Now the last leaf down here, once again wet it. Okay, let's get a little bit of colour in there. Too much. And the last element there. Okay. There we go. Okay, right, and the underside of this, let's get some water in here. Now, it is going to be a form of green in here. Just roll some of that away, get the wet on wet surface, and let's get it green, even if it's a yellowy green, but I will get some let's put some tinges in there. Okay, lifting some of that. Excellent. There you go. I don't think we could have done better if we tried. That's good. And you can see there how the white gives you some height. The outline of the plant, it's good. It's very good. I'm very happy with that. Okay, now let's dispense with this. Something I should have said, and I should not have. Do not carry that water over your finished product. Just saying. How do I know? Yes, there's been a couple of classical bits of profanity expressed when one has done something as silly as that. Okay, what's the expression? One learns from one's mistakes, hopefully. Okay, now to clean the brush, you can take it to the sink. However, as you can see, what I've done there is I've just squeezed it onto, and it's clean. Voila, for the next application. Okay. Right, now to ensure that that is dry, I'm just going to quickly give it a bit of a blast of heat, not too hot. Okay, it's just about dry. That's great. That's very nice. Now, what I'm going to do, we've just got to find a colour that we're going to apply into the background. So the burnishing colour, as you can see here, it's I think that one is a gorgeous grape. This one is like a fresh freesia. This one is Cajun red. So really, I'm just picking up a colour maybe within the element there, and we're going to brush that in. Now, I think I want something very light, and so I'm going to go with something like this, which is soft sea foam. I want the stamp itself and the colours to still stand out, and so what I've done here, or what I've done in the past, is thus. A little bit of, let's just see how intense this is. Beautiful. Okay, it's not too intense. Just going to get rid of some of that. Okay. Okay, let's give this a go. Just be careful, nice soft rotations, and you lower down onto it. There you go. To get a nice green. There we go. Fabulous. Now, I'm starting in the center here, and then I'm working my way out. Now, it's a bit like vignetting, I suppose, where I'm not going into the corners. I'm just going to the center on the sides and the center on the edge. There it is, and that's enough. A hint of soft sea foam. Okay. Now, given it's soft sea foam, let me grab some soft. Okay. All right. Let me just cut the measurements off here for you. Okay, so it's 15 centimeters by 12 centimeters. Yes, you can disguise that for a little bit, but trust me, it does come back to haunt you at some stage. And look at that beautiful contrast. Yes. Okay. And you know, with so many different colours available to us, when I first started, I didn't feel that I was very confident with colours and choosing colours and what colour goes with which. And then if you have to bring in a third colour, oh my gosh, it was time for a tablet and a lie down. However, just step out on that limb, as they say, and you will be surprised. Somebody said to me the other day, I did a card. Let me just show you the card. That's right here. I did this card the other day, and somebody said to me, I would never have thought of doing a pink Eiffel Tower. Well, up until the moment I started doing the card, I'd never thought of it either. But monotone requires one colour. So bite the bullet and everything is one colour. So you'll surprise yourself with this little career. Just how smart you become at eyeballing colours and choosing it. Now look at that, that's absolutely fresh as a daisy. I'm just going to cut off a piece of soft sea foam. If I don't have any in my scrap pile, just let me have a quick snoop. Normally I have all of this stuff cut and ready. Last thing I like to see is somebody rifling through a pile of cut card. My theory is I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Okay, all right. I'm just going to cut off a spare piece of that to make the corners. And I'll show you how easy it is to do that with our SU hole punch, corner punch. Now, here it is here. Let me show you. I love this. As soon as I saw it, I thought must have. It's one of those things I didn't know I needed until I saw it. 1, 2. There they are. 2, 3, and voila, 4. No, not good. I moved it as soon, I felt it as soon as I moved it. It wasn't quite right. Yes, I moved it away. Just in case I've got another one there that's, yeah, that's better. Okay. Right, glue. Now, let's get this onto the corners of our, yep. Okay, now what I do with these, I tend to keep the rounded piece at the top, like thus. Where's my cotton bud gone? Here it is. And here we go. So I put the curved piece at the top. And I find another corresponding curved piece. Now, interesting enough, you might find you need to give that a bit of a brush with the boning tool. What, I can't remember what it's called now. Bone folder, just to square off any raised edges from the cutting process. Okay, now let's go down and repeat that at the bottom. So just a little squirt of glue, don't flood it. One thing you learn over time, how to regulate a glue nozzle or a glue flow. when I think about all the things I learned at school, in fact I can't think too many things I learned at school that I used in my career as I travelled around the world, I think these are the skills that I needed, obviously, when I was in those formative years. How to squeeze glue sparingly. Yeah. Okay, there's a little bit of ridge there. See if we can get rid of that. There we go. And look at that. Have you seen a nicer thank you note in your life? It's fantastic. Okay, now let's just apply some glue to the back of that. Look at that. And Bob's your uncle. Bob's your uncle, I don't even know. Is that a colloquial Australian expression? Bob's your uncle? Anyway, we use it a lot, or I do. It just means everything's okay. Where that comes from, I have no idea. Okay. There we go. All right, now the last thing we need is the thank you stamp. Now, I've had lots of questions around how I apply my thank you stamps. Well, no, my sentiments, actually. Let me show you. Look, and here's a very nice thank you one here. I like to say this is my signature trademark. Because as I've observed, and I've watched so many Stampin' Up! YouTube videos, I can practically recite them all. And I watch them just to learn the techniques, because I think, how did they do that? So there I was in the name of research, glued to the laptop. Okay, this is what I do, and this is my little thing that I bring to the Stampin' Up! World, if I can be so bold. Okay. Let's get this stamped. Now, what colour shall we do that? I think the yellow might be better. We've got enough green tones there. Let's do this yellow, and this is the yellow that you saw that we played with in. Look at that. Doesn't matter how I try to not get a halo. Fantastic. Okay, let's try it again. Don't rock it, Michael. Just let it go. Okay, that's perfect. I like that. And put that away. Right. Now this is what I do when it's dry. Of course, when it's dry. And because it's a thank you note, I'm not going to worry about beads and ribbons and, I mean, you don't have to, and I didn't, but if you want to, then be my guest. Okay, scissors, one for paper, one for fabric. I learnt that one in the first week of video watching, and here we go. So, I'm fussy cutting. That was a new term that I'd learnt from our Stamping Up colleagues. So I'm fussy cutting. Now, in many of the stamp sets, you will find that there is a die that would cut this sentiment for you. And I had to have all of those. And after I'd reached about 100 stamp and die sets, I thought, oh, enough is enough. I'll do this myself. So now what I do is I fussy cut every sentiment. And you'll notice that every card I make has its own fussy cut sentiment. And you'll notice I also burnish it. Now, one of the things that I am hot on is colour and movement. And what I mean by that is, now I'm just going to burnish this. I'm going to burnish it in the same colour that I've stamped it in. I'm not going to come try and look for complementary colours, because let's face it, this ain't no LGBTI card stock. I just want to burnish it in the same colour that I've stamped it in. And with all due respect to my fellow LGBTI compatriots, in this case, you're getting one colour. Right. Okay, so colour and movement. I'm all about it. And this helps me get some of that colour and movement. I think the thing that makes a card come alive is texture and height. And so that burnishing helps provide colour and texture. And, oops, where's my, it's here. These putty, I can never stop the thing from dribbling, if that's the expression they use. Okay. Margaret. There we go. My partner, my ex-partner, I used to always be blaspheming. I couldn't say God or anything like that. I'd always end up saying Margaret, and it happened to be his mother's name. He said, "Don't say that, mother will hear it." Well, she did one day. She said, "Yes, my darling. Oh, I just wanted to compliment you on your hair." Anyway. All right. Look at that. Done. That is just the nicest, sweetest little thank you card that I have made to date. I think it's nicer than all the others I've made. And I said that about all of them. Isn't it funny how you become attached to the last thing you make? It's like childbirth, I'm sure. You fall in love with it all over again. And you forget about the pain when you make a mistake and things like that. But anyway, look, there it is. How to use up your stamp sets. But become reacquainted with your stamp sets. Learn why you bought them. And practice some watercolouring techniques. Now, you could use your markers and create a similar effect. It'll be different, but it'll be similar. And I just think even to receive something like that is a gift, a little gift of art. All right, so that's it from today from Michael's Card Art. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something. And I hope to see you next time. All right, take care.